Greetings, friends. I am here with another interview. I'm here with the author Tosin Ajogbeje, and I am so excited to get into this conversation with her. Tosin and I connected several years ago. I haven't counted, but maybe we'll get the exact count in our conversation in Halifax. And she agreed to come onto the channel to have a discussion about poetry and creative life. So before we get into the conversation, let me just tell you a little bit about Tosin. Tosin Ajogbeje is a public relations expert and an award-winning spoken word artist who enjoys contributing to community ventures, creating spoken word video content, and blogging about pertinent social issues. She holds a Master of Public Administration from Dalhousie University, a BA in Finance and Economics from Algoma University, and a graduate certificate in Public Relations from Niagara College. Tosin's academic experience and engagement with societal issues solidified her career decision to further explore complex topical issues and incorporate these into her writing. When she is not slamming at poetry events, she joins friends in a game of soccer, cools off at the gym, and volunteers wherever she can. Tosin has received rave reviews for her spoken word poetry work in the St. Catharines Standard newspaper and Dalhousie University's alumni online platform. She was recently awarded an honorable mention for outstanding international entry for the ideal female by a leading spoken word publisher, Button Poetry. Although this is her first poetry book, Falling is a Gift, she hopes to continue to highlight social justice topics, self-help proficiencies, and contemporary societal norms while using narrative, rhythmic, and lyrical language in her spoken word poetry. So we are here to discuss Falling is a Gift and celebrate all things Tosin Ajogbeje. So Tosin, welcome.
Thank you for having me, Lady
You can hear
Abina.
the applause. All right. So um I am going to I have a question that wasn't on the list, but tell me about a poem or song you know all the words to.
Hmm. I would say two right now that really speak to me, by Nikki Giovanni
Ooh.
and also by Lanston Hughes. But I'll go with Lanston Hughes for Dreams because it's one poem that just really speaks to me. Inspired me to even write this book in the first place.
Hmm.
So it goes, hold fast to dreams, for if dreams die, life is a broken winged bird that cannot fly. Hold fast to dreams, for when dreams go, life is a barren field frozen with snow. Yep, so that's the one. Yeah.
Wow. Thank you. I love it. Tosin, I'm excited to get into the art. So we met,
Yeah.
I think in 20, I don't know what year, like the numbers are lost, but sometime
2016.
was it 2016? Okay.
Yes, yes. Wait, so you know what why I remember? Because this was when I pretty much even had the guts to say, you know what, I want to perform spoken word poetry with amazing poets like yourself or alongside poets such as yourself, you and L. Jones and other amazing poets in the Halifax location. But that year for me was a defining moment for me. So I
Mm,
can never, I can't. But it was 2016 and I'll never
okay.
forget. Yeah.
And we were at I think the Seahorse, is it still called that? And George Elliott Clark was there. If we're thinking of the same night, are
No,
we?
actually, we met before that, actually. But I think that was just the first night they had the poetry slam.
Okay.
And I remember just performing alongside with you as well and other amazing poets. And yeah, Elliott Clark was there as well. So yeah, that was also a great moment. Yeah.
Okay,
Yeah, very
so
interesting moment too. Yeah.
yeah, it was an exciting night. I think that was the last time I remember seeing you.
Yeah.
So
Yeah.
that was a big span of time. Can you fill me in a little bit on where have you been since then? The highlights or the key
Yes.
notes?
Oh my gosh. Okay. So I remember I graduated from grad school from Dalhousie University that same year, and I left for the GTA. So I was staying, I believe, somewhere in Malton, Mississauga area. And um, I would say that during that time, I was literally going into, you know what, okay, I'll just get into like searching for a great job in my field because prior to that time, I was already working as a policy analyst intern. So I thought that, you know what, I was gonna continue my work in research. And I would say that when I moved to the GTA, I something started to pique my interest more. You know, of course, spoken word poetry gave me so much. It gave me the confidence that I needed, you know, to speak up, to have my voice heard. And I really wanted to take that further. I actually remember something, Abina, and I don't think I ever told you this, but I don't know if you remember Matt, one of the coordinators for the
Yeah.
poetry sessions at that time in Halifax. He had recommended or suggested that I apply to BAMF, so the BAMF
Oh,
Center for
yes.
Arts
Mhm.
and Creativity. And I remember applying and for a poetry program or so, I think like a 1 year program or less than a 1 year program. And I just didn't get in. And I was like, oh my God, I was really trying to, I don't know, for some reason, I thought, you know what, I could just be a poet and that would be it. And I could just leave the research alone. But I would say that, again, because that was also a defining moment for me. I put that on the umbrella of falling is a gift and never just giving up. But anyways, I would say that after just, you know, sitting back, you know, doing a bit of working research, you know, I'd worked in Thunder Bay as a you know, research role or in a research capacity. But I, at some point, I really needed to speak to myself and say, you know what, Tosin, you love poetry, you love storytelling. What do you want to do with your life? So I had to sort of figure out, okay, do I want to go back to school? So that was when I decided to go back to school. So I attended Niagara College, got my degree in public relations and advertising. And so ever since I've just been in the GTA, just doing the storytelling work, you know, working as a PR professional, working in freelance roles. And so right now I'm actually working with the Toronto Guardian as a content creator and writer. And yeah, so I would say that it's been great so far, just being able to sort of own those skills and just doing something that I'm really passionate about. Yeah, yeah.
Yeah, I've been seeing some of your recent work with the Toronto Guardian. I'm like, oh, this looks really interesting, and it does seem like a natural fit for you. Can you speak a bit more to how, yeah, PR is storytelling, I guess, for others?
Yeah, so PR, I would say, so public relations is pretty much, you know, uplifting the brand of an organization. So whether you're working as a PR professional or you're working in a communications role, it's typically helping the brand grow, improving the brand value. And so with PR, you know, comes with a lot of coming up with strategies and tactics, you know, to advertise a product or a service that an organization actually upholds. And so as a PR specialist, you know, it's helpful if, you know, you have a very I would say you have a skill set that enables you to work on several tasks. So whether it's writing, whether it's being able to manage your time, because you know, as a PR specialist, there are times when you can actually find yourself in a fast-paced work environment. But don't
Mhm.
we all always find ourselves overworking, right? But the beautiful thing about PR is that you can bring um diverse skills. You can bring so many skills or many skills into the box pretty much. You can bring your writing skills, your project management skills, your videography skills, your social media skills as well. And so I would say that that is PR in a nutshell. You know, just being able to identify the brand, being able to make it, you know, being able to upgrade it, being able
Mm.
to sell it to people, you know, to buy a product, to buy to approach a service in a certain way, and just, you know, it's very service oriented, right? But it's filled with so much passion, and it's amazing career to you know, to find yourself in. Yeah.
Nice. Okay, so um, yeah, so it's like a crossover between like several skills. You said project management,
Yes.
branding, lifting up
Yes.
the brand. So let's kind of slide into the creativity side.
Mm,
Um,
yep.
I like that. I like that those worlds that you live in and the overlap of them. Let's take it back though a few years and
Mm.
why poetry? Where did it come from in your life and what does it do for you?
Mm. I would say that it pretty much started from my teenage years, to be quite honest. I should start by saying that, during my teenage years, for me, this was when poetry really spoke to me. It was surely a unique time for me in my formative years up until now. I didn't quite fit in, because I grew up in Nigeria. I moved to Canada. I believe I was 18 or so when I moved to Canada. And while I was growing up in Nigeria, I just never really fit in. I don't know why. I just think because of there were just certain things happening at that time, and societal issues. Of course, every country has its own problems, but I was very aware about certain things. I questioned things, and because I lived in a multi-diverse environment, of course, it was memorable for me. But I would say that during that time, I felt this sense of independence in my thinking.
Mm.
Um, and this was something that my dad also championed is because my dad championed his kids to sort of read more, to digest information more. But I just didn't want to read. I just wanted to write. And I remember he had bought this notebook for me, like literally to say, you know what? Okay, when you read a book, write the words or the ambiguous words, that the words that you don't understand, and check the dictionary. But I didn't want to do that. So I turned my notebook, the special notebook that he gave me, I turned it into a rap book because I just liked listening to rap music. And the other thing too was that I was also a conversationalist. I
Mm.
enjoyed talking too much. Just in Nigeria, I have to say this because in Nigeria there's something I don't know if it's the same in classrooms in secondary schools in Ghana, but there's this list called noise makers list. So this is where if you make noise in class, they'll add your name to the list, and the teacher can just send you out of the class. Like, okay, just you know, go out of the class and don't disturb the class. So, but anyway, so my name was usually in this list just for talking too much. And that was just because I really enjoyed looking at newspapers, for example, or reading newspapers or looking at magazines and just going to class or watching the TV show, for example. Then I'll go to class and be like, oh, guess what I watched yesterday? And I'll just keep talking about it. So when I look back and I reflect on me being a conversationalist, me writing rap music, whatever you want to call that, because I hope that notebook is never found because I don't know what I was writing. I was just writing whatever at that time. I was trying to be like the female Eminem, and let me just say something. I don't agree with everything that Eminem says, especially in terms of, mistreating women and anything that has to do with like a violent lyrics. I'm not with that. But I have just always enjoyed a style of putting lyrics together. It's phenomenal. It's outstanding. It's out of this world. And so another thing too, Abina, was that because of the zeitgeist of that era in Nigeria, I wasn't oblivious to the ongoing societal problems. I questioned things, why are things going on this way? Why is there so much poverty here? Like, why can't they solve this problem? So all of that sort of struck my creative nerve. But I needed the education to improve let's say, my writing skills or my poetry writing skills. And so because I was so aware of this contemporary issues and happenings, how it affected or how it directly and indirectly affected people. I would say that sort of woke me up. And so I would read poetry books, like poems from amazing legends like Wale Soyinka. I think one of his books, poetry books, is called Idonre and Other Poems. I remember reading Wale Soyinka's that I believe it was that poetry book, and I was like, oh my God, I don't think I can ever write poetry because the words were so I couldn't understand the words, and I just found it so fascinating. But at the same time, I was like, I don't think I can do this. But I would say that all of that intrigued me, listening to James Baldwin, his interviews at that time as well, how we talked about race, justice, and history. I was like, I wish I could talk like him or speak like him and really address these issues, whether it's through poetry or in a creative format. Of course, Maya Angelou. So I grew up listening to all of these great people, and it activated my penchant for poetry, for writing, not even just poetry, for writing. And I would say that it explains the reverence for for spoken word poetry, or my reverence rather for spoken word poetry today. So I'll say my teenage years up until now, it's just been sort of like, me reflecting back and seeing where all of this passion comes from.
Nice. Some great influences that you came across in life, plus the societal
Mm.
events happening, which
Yeah,
seems like it ties into your work from like as the inspiration and then into your content now.
yeah, yeah.
Um, you're gonna hear the baby in the background, so hopefully she's
No
not too
problem.
bad.
That's cute.
So
Yeah.
when you I kind of break this up into two experiences. When you write is one experience, and then when you share it aloud is a different experience. What
Mm.
do each of those do for you or within you?
Mm. That's a very good question. When you write and when you speak it out loud. You were one of the first people actually, sidebar, sorry, but you were one of the first people who actually told me, Tosin, you have such a beautiful voice. And I was like, really? Okay, sure. And this is like way back in Halifax. You were so generous, Abina. You were like, Tosin, relax, okay? You have an amazing voice. Um, because and I don't think I've really ever shared this before because there were times, and I'm going to answer that question, but there were times when I felt that, especially in Halifax, there were people who would say, a few people who would say things about my inflections, my
Mm,
pronunciation, and immigrant, right?
mhm.
Oh, Nigerian English. Oh, this is this. So I thought writing was safer for me at some point. And this is
Okay.
why I'm like, okay, spoken word poetry. And this is the way I feel. Spoken word poetry actually saved me because it gave me that confidence that I needed. Um, yeah. Anyways, okay. So with writing itself, Jen Sincero, she mentioned something. She said, what you focus on you create more of.
Mhm.
And for me, creating content is magical for me. Writing is magical for me. It's therapeutic. It's healing or cathartic, however we want to put it. And that quote by Jen Sincero is an axiom of mine because it gives me hope that, the more you focus on something, the more you try to improve yourself on that particular skill set, you're just going to have the energy, you're going to have the synergy rather to chug away, to continue, to keep going. And so for me, writing just gives me this peace of mind. And I think it does this for every other person that has a passion. Passion just kicks you to do better every day.
Yeah.
It gives you this um it motivates you,
Yeah.
it enlightens you, and it gives you a sense of purpose as well. And so for me, writing enables me to expel doubt,
Mm.
self-doubt. It
Okay.
reassures me, especially meaning, and the word purpose in the right direction. I always say, okay, fine. I know I said falling is a gift, fine, but creating is also a gift. Your passion is a gift. Never lose
Mhm.
it. Artists like Beyonce, they should I think they probably asked her a question in one of the magazines or so, and she talked about how creativity is the ultimate power. So for me, writing is the ultimate power. Now to actually speak it and to be able to voice it, that empowers me even further. Now, and I don't want to put myself in the box because writing is a champion on its own. The ability to still tell your story. Beautiful. There's so many
Mhm.
ways that you can tell stories: videography, writing, speaking out loud. But speaking out loud it gives me the sense of fulfillment. I think that's the word I'm looking for because now I am
Fulfillment, sorry?
shouting it out.
Did you say
Exactly.
fulfillment?
Yes.
Okay.
Yes. Yeah. Because I'm shouting it out loud
Mhm.
for the world to hear. I think about when Amanda Gorman, for example, performed her historic poem, and the hill
Hill we climb.
yeah, the hill
Yeah.
we climb. And I think I'm gonna paraphrase it because I can't quite remember all the lines, but I think she had said, for there is light if we are only brave enough to see it, if we are only brave enough to be it. And I remember she just voicing it out. And I think I'd read her poem and I was like, oh, wait, it feels different. it really feels different. So for me, or it hits different
When you
rather.
between when you read it and when you heard it?
Yes,
Okay.
yes, yes. And even as someone, and then I could sort of turn the tables around, and then I could see that we're writing, I still feel that sense of fulfillment, but we're speaking it out loud through spoken word poetry. It feels cool.
Okay.
I think that's the word, cool, meaningful.
It does
Yeah,
have a
and that
feeling
sense
in
of
your body.
fulfillment. Yeah, yeah, yeah,
Can I go
yeah.
back to something you said? You said writing helps you expel self-doubt.
Yes.
And there's a poem that you wrote about that as well, like the speaking to doubt. So are you
Yes.
saying like you're working through doubt in yourself to write, or doubt or just about thoughts of yourself? And is it like the writing, you're encouraging yourself through writing? Can you tell me more about that idea?
That's a good question. I would say that in terms of expelling doubt, and what I mean by that is everyone has a passion, everyone has a talent. I always say something, embrace your talent as much as you can. Don't insult God because God gave
Mhm.
you a talent. Use it.
Right.
Use it. Anybody can come up and say, "Oh, Tosin, I don't want to go spiritual." Yeah, go. I'm going spiritual. I believe in God.
Let's go.
Yeah, you're insulting God. God. That's what I mean, that's what I think,
Mm,
you know. But I feel like that alone tells me something, that I am doing what God has destined for me to do. And so it gives me reassurance that I am going in the right path,
okay.
and that I don't need to question things too much. So I am not necessarily
Mm,
talking about writing itself.
okay.
I am pretty much talking about how it makes me feel. It gives me a sense of purpose, and it gives me a sense again of fulfillment, and just really knowing fully well that I'm here for a reason, quote unquote. I am here for a reason. So it's expelling the doubt. So if people, for example, Abina were to come to me and say, "Oh, what are you talking about? What are you?" But one person likes what I've written, it speaks to them. That alone gives me fulfillment as well, because not everyone has to agree with your work. And I
Mhm.
think as writers or as storytellers, we have to challenge ourselves to understand that this is how people do things sometimes, and embrace that. But that, of course, we want to speak to everyone, but it doesn't always happen because everyone will always have a different viewpoint. But the fact that you can still share your story
Mhm.
and one person likes it, that's enough for me. Yeah.
Yeah, it does. That's a good point. Like, it takes a lot to get up and share it, and then we have to still accept like they're not everyone will love it.
Yeah.
But
Yeah.
yeah,
Yeah.
but I like how you said it feels cool. Like it does. I
Yeah.
remember. I think I remember the first time. I think it was the first time I was also in Halifax, and I got on the stage after
Oof.
watching the greats before me and just
How
being
did you feel?
super nervous, but embraced.
Mm.
Because I had been okay, it wasn't the first time I was in public, but it was the first time I was at a slam. I was at Word is Bond
Oh
speak,
my
right?
God. Yes.
So I had been like going and listening and like kind of getting
Yeah.
fuel, and
Yeah.
so the first time I went up there, I felt nervous but
Mm.
ready. I was like, I'm gonna do it,
Mm.
and
Yeah.
I felt a
Yeah.
lot of love from the people. I feel like it's
That
a
is
real
enough.
exchange. You know what I mean? Like there's energy in
Yeah.
the room, and like
Yeah.
if you kind of ride on your nervousness and just make it to the end,
Mm.
it's like to me that's
Yeah.
my type of thrill. Like I'm not one for physical like um adventures like bungee jumping or anything. Like I like to stay on the ground. Um
Yeah. Yeah.
but it did
Yeah.
give me a bit of a thrill, I guess you could say.
Yeah. Yeah. And
uh
that's a great point. That's a very great point. I mean, I just wish people would embrace that more and just go for it. You just
mm,
have to. Yeah, you
yeah,
have
if
to.
you have the urge.
Yeah, yeah.
Are you creative in other ways besides writing?
Hmm. I would say, because creating for me, and when I think about like the again my formative years, I'm thinking, okay, me writing rap music, because intellectual music has always been something that enlightened me, and it continues to even enlighten me till today.
Mhm.
I'm a big fan of just, reading lyrics, Kendrick Lamar, anyone, Nas, Eminem, till today. Um, but do I enjoy creating in other forms? I would say because, again, of my education as well. I think my education in public relations, communications, and advising, it gave me an added skill set, which I never even knew that I had before, because all I ever did was engage in research in communications and content writing. But I never engaged with, let's say, creating videos, for example, being able to edit videos. And even as a PR professional, there are times when an employer will say, well, I know you can write, but can you also edit a video using Adobe Creative Cloud tools or Premiere Pro,
Mm-hmm.
or Viva Video? Can you do you have that skill set? So I would say the education helped me too. So I
Wow.
would say
So you can do all the answer to all that is yes?
yes, yes, but not to an extent, okay? Because I don't want anyone to say, "Oh, come help me edit some videos with Adobe Premiere Pro."
We'll talk to you about that later.
I'm still learning,
That's
but
awesome though. Those are like the kind of technological skills which I really
oh
admire
yeah,
and I think goes in hand, as they're saying, with this type of like work
yes.
and creative life, the way the world is going, everything is digital
Mm,
now. So if you're able to
you
do
just
that and
mentioned it,
build on,
sister. Yeah, yeah. But isn't it scary though? Because it's like, okay, fine, the world is ever evolving, technological era, rapid growth, blah, blah, blah. But then it's like, okay, what's coming up next? Because all we ever, I mean, I would say back in time, like when we go back in time, people only needed to learn how to write and
mm,
maybe take photos. But now you have to learn how to edit the videos,
I know.
take the photos, edit the videos and the photos together, merge them together, share them on social media.
Write a caption, yeah, make the background so it's like the right format and
Yes.
I feel like I'm a bit behind the curve. I think it's a good challenge to update those skills.
Yeah.
I do think some people could feel left behind if, like, for instance, I remember watching YouTube like back in university, and there were some
Yeah.
YouTubers that would just come on and make their videos, and you could see them. You always see them push their finger to start and stop the recording, and now you don't see that, right? That's so advanced.
Yeah.
People,
Yeah.
they have a whole setup. They have the ring light, they have their mic, they have this, they have that. I remember that particular YouTuber was like, "Man, YouTube is changing. Like, it's not just for fun anymore."
Yep.
So I feel like in this
It's for
wave,
work.
maybe a lot of people feel left behind, or they feel like, "Oh man, I'm not
Yeah.
that techie. I just want to put the content out."
Mm,
Um,
mm.
and others love
AI
it.
is boom, boom, boom. It's going. It's taking over
Yeah,
our jobs. Don't take
I don't.
over our job.
Yeah, even writing. Apparently, I have to like learn more about that. But I'm seeing ads for it, and a friend of mine told me about how AI can write blog posts for her. I
Yes,
don't think it's gonna be as
Tina.
good as the
Yes.
real thing, but
Oh my God. Oh my God. See, I'm telling you, I hope you're not about to nix PRs
I
out
don't
of the
think I
game.
think I think you're good for a while, but we'll see.
Oh my gosh. And you know what? This brings me to a great topic too. Just very quickly, to add is that and now I'm starting to see that, it is important to re-educate yourself or
Mm,
educate yourself, as much as you can. I would say people should embrace that. Yeah, if you can,
yeah.
do it. Yeah.
All right, so let us switch to some of your work from
Okay.
Falling is a Gift,
Yeah.
released in 2020. And at the end of this, you can tell our listeners where they can find your book. Um,
Okay.
you can Google it right now. It's called Falling is a Gift. But yeah, so is there from that book a poem that has special meaning for you?
Yes. I would say many of them, honestly, many of them, because they really speak to me. I think the point of falling as a gift, for me was that I wanted to draw narratives from diverse real life experiences and the broader community as a whole, really understanding that life can be a bit of a roller coaster, but people can choose to look at the big picture and really say, you know what, I can learn from this and I can move forward from it, understanding that it's a dystopian society, it's an imperfect world, and that you can just keep pushing, keep going. But at the same time, when I think about this era, this time, one that really speaks to me is the world is a machine. Of
Mm,
course, in the book as well. Um, and the reason is because it acknowledges the genesis, the present state of the world, and the belonging tree. And what I mean by that is the poem itself unveils the struggle of wanting to fit in and win all the time. Um, the world, again, as I mentioned earlier, and I think we talked about this, it's ever evolving. So people are, and the people that I've spoken to, even from my experience as well, there are times when we feel, oh, we just have to get it right all the time, at work, in real life, because guess what? We're human beings. But no, um, when you think about people feeling discouraged just to gain a foothold in realizing their full potential, you ask yourself, why are they so much in a hurry? Or what are they scared of? So I say in the poem itself, I say, beware of its virulent bite. It perforates so easily. Don't let this machine, the world itself, liquefy your solidity, especially in this capitalist, self-indulgent world with slightly responsive communities. This piece itself speaks volume to picking oneself back up, because setbacks often arise, and not even giving up could be something that, and not giving up could be something that you embrace. You can choose to do that. But of course, people will keep throwing those stones and, maybe judging you and asking you, oh, why are you not achieving this? Or why are you not doing this? Because it happens.
Mm.
Um,
Have you felt that in your own life, like judgment of not being enough or going in a
mm,
particular direction,
yes,
not going fast
definitely.
enough?
And yeah, and I think in one of the poems itself, I actually talk about, being young and growing up and the expectations of, oh, you
Hmm.
have to do this, you have to achieve this. So
Yeah.
sometimes it's even from family as well, even as an immigrant. And I think for me, I had to make this I had to personalize that the book itself, but not all of it, because I did a bit of research and I spoke to a few people as well. But at the same time, in my real life, you will find that, or even with other people that I've spoken to, people would say, oh, well, but you can do this, but you can do that. In my real life, I can say that I've had family, or a few family members say, you know what, Tosin, okay, don't be slacking over there. You can do better. You can do better.
Mm.
But have you seen the amount of work that I've put into this, into finding better work,
Are they
into
saying that at this stage of your life, or this was like before you achieved being a PR specialist, or?
oh my God, this was totally before, but even after too, because
Mhm.
the more you even, let's say you have a job, you have a house, you have all of that great stuff, luxury, everything, people sometimes would still say, you know what, um, now that you are at this level, now you have to maintain being on that level. Society throws that at everyone most times, and even family too. Oh, well, you've been able to buy a car, but can't you get a second car? You know,
Oh, true.
for me or for them, you know.
Oh, for me? Yeah, yeah. You should be able to
Yeah,
get me a
yeah,
car now.
yeah. So you have a car now. Okay, when are you gonna buy me a car? But I just want a car. You were just telling me to buy a car. Tosin, it's time for you to finally buy a car. But now you're telling me, my cousin, oh well, can't you buy me a car? I was the one I was empowering you. I was
Mm,
encouraging you.
I was the one. That's
Yeah.
funny.
So now you got to buy a car for me. So it's just as an example itself as to how, society wants more from us every time. And then we need to ask ourselves, but is it like it's, and I think competition can be good, especially like friendly competition. It can be good because then it drives us to innovate. But then there is this aggressive way of trying to push someone to do things that they don't have to do to get to what they have to get, if that makes any sense. And I think that was one of the reasons why I wrote that book too, because I feel that that is the world we're living in today, is, oh, you can do more, you can do more, you can do more. So
Mm,
then people start doing illicit things, that
okay.
they shouldn't even be focusing on, because they've been pushed to the wall to say, you must get this by any means necessary.
Mm. And by this age too, like 40 under 40, 50, and so it's like
Mm,
there's not much enoughness. Um,
yep, yep, yep. And Brene Brown, amazing author,
yeah,
amazing
Brown.
speaker.
Yeah.
She says this quote, and it's so funny because I saw this the other day and I'm like, oh my God, this summarizes my book. It's everything. She says, you are imperfect and you are wired for struggle, but you are worthy of love and belonging. That word alone, belonging,
Mm,
is what I think everyone should embrace. I want to start embracing that
mm.
belonging, even as an immigrant. Yeah,
Where do you feel you
yeah.
belong?
Sorry.
I said, where do you feel you belong now?
Mm. Oh, that's a good question, Abina. You're trying to trick me. I didn't see that one coming. Okay. Where do I feel like I belong? That's a very good question. And it's so funny. I feel like it's poetic too. Where do you belong? Huh. Or do I feel like I belong?
I
I
know.
think
It's
that's
it's
a
it's
good
a great
question.
idea, but I feel
Whew,
like I would have a hard time answering it too myself, to be honest.
yeah. There's a struggle with answering that though, because I think because it's like timeless, it's infinite, it's not stopping until we all leave Earth, right? But I think belonging could mean so many things, right? Sense of belonging, especially as an immigrant, is being comfortable in a particular space and feel and feeling empowered in a particular community. Um, but I would say that right now, because I am doing what I enjoy doing, that alone makes me belong. Not feel like I belong, then I feel like I'm hesitating if I say feel like I belong. But I would say because I'm doing what I enjoy doing. So I belong. I
In
belong.
your professional space?
Yes, in the
Okay.
yeah, so in the professional space.
Okay.
In real life, I feel because it's infinite, it's just going, 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 then stop, right? And so we have to keep finding, because new things will always come up. What is okay? Think about a talent that you haven't explored yet. That in the next 2 years or in the next 3 years, you might be open to that opportunity, and
Mhm.
then you could belong in that space or in that community or in that country.
I get you. Yeah. So it's ongoing, it's belonging in particular spaces, but not necessarily a set
Yes. Yes,
neighborhood or
it's
community.
ongoing. Yeah, yeah, yeah.
What is something, Tosin, happening in the world right now that has got your
Mm.
attention?
I'll say two things. Two things. I'm gonna talk about one really quick and fast because I feel like I'm always sharing content on that anyways. So it is what it is. A lot of people don't agree with me. It's fine, especially men.
Oh boy, what is it?
Feminism.
Okay.
It's so funny because the other day I wouldn't say an argument per se, but I was talking to someone about feminism, and whew, the way they came at me was like, what is it talking about? What is feminism? Don't talk about the history. We don't want to hear you. I'm like, see, I'm going to say what I need to say respectfully. But okay, so this is my thing about feminism. And okay, so the second one would be misinformation, because there are two meanings now from what I've heard. There's misinformation, disinformation, or fake news. I'll just say fake news. As a content creator, I'm very much concerned about that too. But very quickly, feminism. So the misconceptions about feminism today troubles me a bit, and how people have sort of misinterpreted it over time by
Hmm.
not sort of understanding, just sit back and understanding what it stood for and why it emerged and what it actually stands for, because feminism has evolved over the years, from the post suffrage movement to the second wave, and presently, the theory it upholds, as become even more conversational. As most of us know, feminism is an organized effort to give women the same social, political, and economic rights as men. We all know that. But today, some have twisted this meaning like, oh, well, it's just a westernized concept. Oh, feminism is probably about, hating men, but absolutely not. And of course, Chimamanda Adichie, I think she had mentioned this, that, men can also be feminists as well, the great author.
Hmm.
And she, I would say that we perk up and really reflect on this notion and understand that without equality, injustice will persist, and that we can all be change makers. And the reason why I think we need to, we need to embrace feminism. And I'm not saying this forcefully, but it's also because of my work, because I've worked with feminist centered organizations. And when I was working for them, this was very eye-opening for me, Abina, because then I was like, wait a minute, okay, I didn't even know that women faced this sort of issues um per se, like in this country. And so the organizations that I work for, their mandate was helping to improve the lives of women, girls, and of course, gender diverse people. So whether it's helping women flee violence, gain meaningful employment, get or afford better housing, and just empower them, um, generally. And so this was when I realized that if radical transformation is what we want as a society, and I mean, including everyone, then we would have to, or we should empower women and young girls. Because, women, of course, and I'm not saying women face all of the issues in the world, there are other problems that we need to tackle on a daily, but we've come a long way, and I'm actually glad that we're even having this argument, that we're having these conversations, because it's telling the world something, that it's time that we can actually reach that equality landscape. I don't know if we can reach full equality. I don't know if that's possible because of the way society is built. It's imperfect, but I really do think that because these issues that women face are present, that we also need to, look at and consider, that feminism is, of course, or embracing feminism, or the feminism concept is important. And I don't, trust me, I do not agree with how other people define what feminism is. As I mentioned earlier, hating men, absolutely not. I'm not for that. Never will be.
Right. It's kind
Never
of
will be.
seeped in to become a we don't need men type of thing, which is
No, no, no.
always
We
been
need
odd to
men.
me. Like, how are you gonna cast
We
away
need
half
men.
of your
Yes,
humans?
yes, yeah. And I'm African too, so I know we have this culture, but again, who created culture? We created culture. Where did culture come from? Culture in most cases has suppressed the powers, the talent of so many great women that we could have known of today. But what happened? So yeah,
Um,
feminism rocks.
do you think that not do you think, sorry, are there current issues like in Canada though that have brought this to your mind, or is this kind of like a global perspective, or like is this
Mm.
something that's like
Or
currently happening in the world or in Toronto, or this that's like bringing makes this a hot topic for you?
Hmm. Well, because I worked with most of the feminist-centered organizations I worked for were based in Toronto, actually
Okay.
Toronto, yeah. And so for me, globally, so before I actually started working for this feminist-centered organizations, my thinking was that, okay, well, this is an issue in developing countries,
Mm.
feminist-oriented issues or feminist issues itself. And then I started working for this organization. I'm like, wait a minute. So women, so many. I want to look at the stats, the demographics. So women are actually experiencing domestic violence right now, and now they're looking for shelters to stay, because they have to also protect their children. So this has actually happened. So I worked on how, I don't want to say I worked on documents because I'm not a social worker, but because I worked in the communications capacity, there were times when I would have to, as a PR person, I would have to raise money for women to afford better housing, for example, or to afford food, to get employment or educational training, to have access to that, or free educational training, I'll put it that way. And so this was when I became aware of these issues, that these issues are also present of course in the Toronto region, and of course, Canada. And again, it's also a global issue. But when we look at the stats, of course, we could say, okay, maybe it's not as challenging as it is here in Canada, as compared to a place like in Nigeria, where on the daily It's just problems, 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 challenges over and over again.
Within the
Um,
same social system that's available here.
Yes, yes, yeah, yeah. And of course, I mean, Canada has, great programs for women, supporting them, always having this advocacy conversations. And of course, that's something that I really respect, this country for. But I still believe that more work needs to be done to protect women, to improve their lives and yeah, and empower them. Yeah,
Nice. All right. So speaking of power, let's bring it back to the power of art.
yeah,
We use a lot of that to
yeah.
speak on these
Oh, I
issues.
forgot to talk about misinformation. Can I quickly talk about misinformation?
Oh yes, yes, yes. Okay, we'll come back.
Yes, yeah, because that one. Okay, so it's so funny because the other day I was like, wait a minute, why is no one? I mean, we need to really start. I mean, like you mentioned, Abina, you talked about AI, you talked about like, I mean, artificial intelligence, you talked about we talked about social media influence, all of that. Misinformation is not even funny. Like we need to start taking that seriously. And I think even as someone who sits on the media chair, I'm able to sort of see and evaluate things even further and say, oh, inaccurate information. Let's stop spreading that. Let's stop spreading that because it's a serious public issue. And even if you read online right now and look at the research itself, as the world evolves and with the rapid growth of technology, fake news propaganda can lead to divisive opinions. It can lead to violent extremism, unverified political news, um, false advertising, hate speech. I could go on and on, protest. And so, because most people, I don't want to say most media houses or whatnot, I don't want to name or blame game anyone here, but because everyone seems to, or most people tend to focus on the algorithms because that drives the customized news, whether it's untrue or it's true, the urgency to just, dish out news becomes the next move. And that can erode people's faith in, the democratic process, voting, for example. It could lead to social conflict. Um, I don't want to get too much into Meghan Markle because I've also been watching the doc. I did see their recent Netflix documentary, and I know she sort of addressed this, as to how the UK media was,
Mm.
putting out information that was not even true, and how, and you look at how the family framework is, and I'll leave it at that because I don't want to discuss that. I don't want to get too political or
I
anything.
know that's like a deeper path right there.
Yeah, yeah. And but from what I've seen so far is that fine, we talk about, I mean, people talk about Meghan Markle, people talk about oh drama, like the dramatic outrage and all of that. But
Mm.
then it shifts focus um away from pertinent social issues. And I think this is why education and literacy is also very important. So there's this like I want to use a word, a catchy word called capitulation. So there's this like, oh, let's give in, let's submit. The capitulation of sorry, my bad, the capitulation to wrong information.
Okay.
I can see that most people are starting to embrace that. Oh, this is the information that's out there, so let's embrace it. Let's blame. Let's
So
engage in
it's
this blame game.
okay. So for instance, just to make sure I understand what you're saying, let's say Meghan Markle, like it's taking a tabloid headline and saying, "Oh, this is what's happening with her," without really digging into whether it's true or
Uh,
considering the source. Is that
yeah,
what you're saying? Like just running with
yeah,
whatever
yeah.
headline you see?
Yeah,
Okay.
then, but is it also making us focus on what's going on right now? I mean, there are people living in poverty. There are people who need food, healthy food. Are we focusing more on preserving the environment? Are we looking at educating, offering free education to kids who cannot even afford good
Okay.
education? So for me, I think that those things are quite important. I mean, another great example, Abina, would be when the COVID-19 lab leak theories um came up, and that sort of like it filled the anti Asian racism,
Hmm.
you know, and people started blaming and blaming a demographic the
Yeah.
certain demographic. And then you sort of reflect on that, the conspiracy theories. I remember one time I had joined this social app called Clubhouse or so, and
Mhm.
people would create like chat rooms and they would say, oh, I don't think you should be taking the they would suggest that people not take the COVID the vaccine itself. They would say people shouldn't indulge in the social distancing role or obliged by that. And I'm like, but have you guys done the research and you are saying things that are untrue, or that I don't even know if they're true or untrue, but you haven't done the research. You're not there. You're not, present. You weren't in that lab. We don't know what really happened. But anyways, so I would say
How
that
many
if
how many of us will ever be, not to agree with them, but like
yeah,
98% of us will never be in the lab. So how do we know? We
yeah,
have to go with something that we hear, right?
yes, yes,
How
yeah,
do we
yeah.
decide?
Yeah, yeah. And I even think for some of my friends, they would say, "Oh my God, you're taking the vaccine? Oh no, I don't think you should." I'm like, "Have you done your research? Maybe it helps, have you seen what's going out there in the world?" And this is like in 2020, literally. I even had like I knew some people were like, "I'm still gonna go out, I'm still gonna party, I'm still gonna travel, I'm gonna act like, this and that." But, you know, again, it all comes down to the education, the literacy. Just read and really I think people just need to be conscious of how they take in information. I think that's what I'm just trying to pass
Mhm.
across, because then you have all of those issues that arise and it ends up leading to social conflict, and it just shifts away the most important information that we need to prioritize at that particular moment.
So,
So yeah.
can you give a quick tip how we would know what's reliable versus what's not?
That's a very good question. As someone, um, as a media professional, right? And as someone who creates content, research has always been extremely important for me. But again, how far can we trust research, right? How far can we trust the data? I think for me, I've always been careful with things. And this is where, even as a writer, and I'm sure you've been aware of this, is when you write something, right?
Mhm.
And you're not sure of it, or you say something and you're not sure of it, I would avoid using comments like, do this. So, for
Mm.
example, I mean, people were saying, oh, I don't think you should, social distance or do none of that. Um, Even if you've done the research and you're like, oh, well, you don't need to social distance, you don't need to do all of that. Um, oh, well, this is what Google said, or this is what this research study said. Or this is what the American Society study or something like that said, or the Canadian Society study said. You link it back to that.
Okay.
But your opinion should just stay with you, inside you, internally, because you don't know which is which. I think it is okay to comment on things. And you think about the old Kanye West anti-Semitic posts, and I'm not even with that.
Mm.
I don't know what he was trying to do, but you're not sure of something, right? Don't even share it in the first place. I think as a writer, and this has worked for several writers, especially those in the media houses, and I'm sure I mean I believe it has worked for them, is we often say, okay, always talking about it, right? And then we sort of, to avoid plagiarism, we remodify the words, we make the words stand out, we make the words become more authentic and genuine, but at the same time, to give more clarity, we really state where we got that research from. Do we make suggestions? Yeah, we can say, oh, read more on this. That's why you say for more information, you put that
Right.
call
So
to
to
action.
something. Okay.
Yeah. And say, okay, for more, well, for you need more, if you need more information, refer back to this, to the health organization's website.
Okay. So
That could be a
something
good example. Yeah,
credible that can back up the statement
exactly.
or
Back it
something.
up.
Okay. So who's talking about it? Gather multiple sources. This is what I'm summarizing from what you're saying. Find out who's saying it and see if more than one person is saying this information.
Yeah.
paraphrase
Yeah.
it. If you're, I mean, or you could say it directly and quote them.
Oh, yes, in quote
And
as
then,
well. Yes.
yeah, as you said,
Yes.
and
Yeah.
then,
Yeah.
yeah,
Yeah.
point to where you can get more. Okay.
Yeah.
I mean, that's a start, and it is needed. That is something that we need to consider with people able to put anything out there into the world.
Yeah. Yeah.
So
Yeah.
thank you for bringing that up. I know that could be a whole nother conversation on its own.
Yes. Absolutely.
Um,
Yeah.
Tosin, where can people find you before you close us out with a poem? Where can people follow you online?
Absolutely. Okay, so people can follow me on Instagram at Tosin. I think I should just spell it out.
Yeah.
T for Tom, O for orange. I do this every time. S for snail. Oh, I can just say it.
You can do your spelling.
Oh, my spelling. Okay. I get this every time.
It's on the
Hey,
screen,
what's your
but just in
name?
case.
Okay. All right. So it's T for Tom, O for orange, S for snail, I for iron, N for Nancy underscore. T for Tom, A for apple, P for paper. No, sorry. Tajo. Sorry, J. Oh my God, my bad. So Tosin underscore, T for Tom, A for apple, J for jog, or then O for orange. So Tosin underscore Tajo. So that's my Instagram handle. Then my website, same name, Tosin, but A jobs. So A, then jobs, jobs.com. So Tosin ajobs.com. So that's where you can, so that's my website.
Okay.
And you can also find more information about my book as well there. Yeah.
Lovely. And again, her book is called Falling is a Gift, available at multiple locations,
Yes.
and also online in e-version for the Kindle.
Yeah.
And do you want to give us a poem before we go?
Yes.
Some
All right. All right. All
poetry.
right. Okay. So because I've been talking about the world as a machine, let's go. So the world is a machine, feeds the world. The world feeds the machine everything. The machine cradles the infant till adulthood and sucks the breast of this cancerous world. The watch that watch you struggle to give more than you have, a world with no cure for all things heavy, a world that conspires to dominate and design existence. Beware of its virulent bite. It perforates so easily. Don't let this machine liquefy your solidity.
Thank you so much for sharing that with us. Powerful words.
You.
Find that poem and more in Falling is a Gift. Tosin, thanks for the conversation. Uh,
Thank you so much.
we need a part two, but until then, I will see you online in the
Absolutely.
background doing our chat. Have a
Thank you
good
so
night.
much and chat soon.
Ciao.